My sister, 32, moved in with me because she got pregnant 5 months ago from what she claimed was a one-night stand. I love my sister, so of course, I took her in. My husband is overseas for 6 more months, so it was nice to have her around because I care about her very much. On Monday, I came home and saw my sister and a strange woman in a screaming match on my doorstep. I obviously didn't know what was happening, but I saw the woman poking my pregnant sister's shoulder, so I intervened. I sent my sister inside, and she begged me to send the woman away. I didn't understand what was going on, but I wanted the altercation to end for everyone's sake, so I told the woman as much. Then she started screaming, asking me if I was also sleeping with her husband. I was like, and then she basically revealed that my sister had been having an affair with her husband for 5 years. 5 years. She had everything printed out: chats, photos, emails, receipts. It was disturbing to see, and I didn't want to go through it all. But a few things were established. My sister knew about his wife. She knew she was the mistress and liked it. This woman was a stay-at-home mom to their 4 kids, one of whom has a severe disability from a car accident. Her husband knew about my sister's pregnancy and even took her on a baby moon to celebrate it. The affair had been going on the entire time, with my sister believing he would eventually leave his wife for her. My sister had fully embraced the role of being the other woman and was emotionally invested in their relationship, despite his repeated lies about leaving his wife. I told the woman I was very sorry and that I obviously didn't know, but I asked her to leave because this wasn't going anywhere, and I didn't want the neighbors to call the police. She was furious, but gave me her number on a post-it, begging me not to let her husband stay at my house. I assured her that no man was stepping foot in my home. My sister was begging me not to believe the woman, calling her a vindictive ex-wife. I told her, all right then, let's look up the marriage online. Let's see if a motion for dissolution of marriage was ever submitted. We fought hard. My sister kept saying I would never understand and that they loved each other, but he just couldn't leave his wife. Blah, blah, blah. I called her dumb and naive. The next day, I told her she could stay here because I didn't want her to become a financial burden on that woman in any way, but I also told her that, right now, I didn't want to engage with her. My sister asked me if I still loved her, and I told her honestly, right now, I can't say I do. I will always help my nephew and not endanger you, but I can't like you because you've shown me you're not a trustworthy person. I told her I didn't trust her not to try anything with my husband, and I didn't trust her with anything at all, so I made her sign a tenants agreement. She's been begging me to forgive her, and I told her there's nothing to forgive. I just don't know who she is anymore. Am I the jerk? Some of OP's comments. Commenter, NTA. You need to make sure she is out of your home before your husband comes home, because you were right, you cannot trust her. OP, I wouldn't worry. I trust my husband 100%. Not my sister anymore, though. I already told him and asked if she ever did something and he said no. Commenter, NTA. Your sister's behavior was vile and inexcusable. That poor woman and her children. Her husband is an absolute POS. OP, I said the affair started 5 years ago, right? Now guess when she, wife. And the kid got into an accident that left the kid disabled. Commenter, and your sister knew? She's a despicable person, and I'm amazed how strong you are for still keeping her housed with you. NTA. OP, she met the flicking kids. Took them to the zoo with the bastard. Commenter, wow, that is severely ballsy. OP, she wanted them to get to know her, so she cowl hop right into the mom role as soon as he divorced his wife. Yeah, right. OP's parents. They died 7 years ago. Commenter, you should ask for pics so you know what this guy looks like, and arrange to get outdoor cameras at the least, so your sis isn't sneaking him around when you're at work. It should be grounds for eviction if she does allow him around. OP, I saw him in the pictures his wife showed me. Also, I work from home ATM. So no dice. Why OP lets her live with OP? One of my reasons is that I don't want her to get an apartment on his dime when that money should go to his kids. Also, my nephew doesn't deserve to be born homeless. OP expands, she pays me no rent. So if he gives her spending money, there is nothing that I can do. But living on his dime in an apartment he would pay for and possibly put in his name. Dangerous. Commenter, just curious, what does your husband say about this situation? OP, he said that it is very disappointing she turned out to be like that and said that it is difficult to trust her as she proved to be such a good liar. Her is the one who helped me with the tenancy agreement and all. Commenter, downvoted. Yeah, that whole thing might just be so that she has tenant rights so that she can try to ruin your fudging life. OP, listen, you don't know which country I am from. We got legal help and did this together with someone that actually has a clue. We saves our asses like this. If not, that would be akin to squatters' rights in the US. Commenter, OP, what are you going to do once the baby is here? Assuming the dad wants to be in the kid's life at least somewhat, I think it's unreasonable to ban him from the house. OP. If she wants him there, she can get her very own apartment. If she still wants to stay and save up for baby, she has to adhere to my house rules. She is free to go and see him outside. To another commenter, I put up my rules. If she wants to stay, she has to adhere to them. She has been told. She still has 4 months to make that decision. If she wants him physically with her after birth, she can do that. But not in my house. How the wife got OP's address. She got the address from BizPhone. Update post 1. First, I'd like to clarify a few things. I am not going to tell my sister to get rid of the baby. That's not my place, and I would never suggest such a thing. Also, I am not going to install tracking software on her phone or demand access to all her devices. That's invasive and wrong. I've been thinking a lot, and while I can't say that I don't love my sister, it's very hard to feel that love right now. I don't know who she is anymore. It's not just that she lied to me. It's what she did and how convinced she is that she was justified because they were in love. She's brought chaos into my home that I opened up to her. I'm deeply disappointed in her, and I just don't like her at the moment. I'm letting her stay with me because I don't want her to become dependent on him. I don't think he's a good man either, and as a social worker, I've seen these scenarios too many times. My sister is already deluded. I don't need to open the door to a dependency that's also financial. Now, on to the update. I haven't been punishing my sister, but I've been treating her like a roommate. This is driving her crazy. She's begging me to go back to how things were before, but I can't. I told her that I need time and that things can't just return to normal overnight. She tried to explain how it all happened. She admitted that she always knew he was married, but believed she could tell how unhappy he was and felt he deserved to be happy. They met at a bar a few weeks after his son's accident. He told her that his wife hadn't touched him since it happened and that he was about to explode. I asked her why she would involve herself with a married man, knowing the hurt it would cause. She said she wanted to be a wife and a good mom, and that included his kids. She had hoped he would divorce his wife so they could all move on and finally be happy together. I just stared at her, unable to comprehend how she could rationalize her actions. A few days later, he appeared at our house, claiming he had left his wife and wanted to be with my sister. I told him to leave immediately or I would call the police. My sister was furious with me, accusing me of ruining her chance at happiness. I made it clear to her, if he comes over again, I will evict her. She's free to date anyone she wants, but not under my roof. I also told her that if she plans to have him around after the baby is born, she'll need to find her own place. Word has gotten around our community about the affair. While we were grocery shopping, a woman even spat on my sister. Many of her friends have cut ties with her, calling her a homewrecker. Some are married themselves and don't want her near their husbands. I haven't said, "I told you so," even once. We unexpectedly ran into his wife at a local cafe. My sister wanted to apologize and suggested that maybe they could all have a good relationship for the sake of the kids. The wife laughed coldly and said, "You made your choices. Now live with them. Don't expect me to make this easier for you." My sister is devastated and has been lying in bed ever since. I'm taking care of her physical needs, making sure she eats, stays hydrated, and attends her prenatal appointments, but I can't bring myself to comfort her emotionally. I just don't have it in me right now. OP's comments. Commenter. Is your sister mentally sound? She seems to be living in a fantasy world. Intia. OP. I don't think she is having a psychotic break. I think she is in too far, and now that she has destroyed her life, she is trying to make it work. Commenter. To get in this far, she can't be a good person, and neither can he. They're both so insanely selfish that they put getting laid over destroying his kid's family and home. I feel horribly for that child. Its parents are trash. OP. That has also been my thoughts. Commenter. I asked the last time and wasn't answered. How did your sister make it to like 32, IRC, and wasn't living with you? Was she working? Why did she immediately stop working the second she found out she was pregnant? If she didn't, why did she give up her apartment and move in with you? A 32 years old living alone had some way to support herself, and people don't just quit their jobs overnight because they got pregnant unless it's because they are in a stable relationship and the partner was willing to support them, in which case again moving in with you would not be necessary. You talk about not being financially dependent on him, but now she's financially dependent on you? Why would you agree to allow her to become financially dependent on you? And why would you accept the cost of caring for an adult and her child just because it's your sister? If she is not working, she should absolutely not have the kid, and you should absolutely not be bearing the brunt of her bad decisions. OP. I had quite a few, so I don't believe I read yours, or at least not fully. I answered someone who asked something similar. Yes, she has a job. She moved in with me to save up for her baby. She is on maternity leave. Her job is not super high paying. I am not responding to the rest of the comment as it seems more aggressive than helpful. To a downvoted commenter saying that's not how maternity leave works in the US. Good thing we are not in the US. Neither the UK. To another, ruder commenter, yeah, you get 100% of the pay for 6 months. After that 80% or something like that for 6 more months, and I think 50% if you go over a year. Also notice how I said not super high paying? In response to someone calling BS on someone spitting on her. Commenter, I was spit on multiple times growing up because I was a bastard. I received a lot of hate because my birther was an unwed teen mom. Random people, teachers, churchgoers, good chunk of so-called family. Small towns suck more than I can say. OP, they go pretty hard in the name of Jesus. Hypocrites if you ask me. When asked where OOP lives, I won't say, but we are quite religious here. Old women think they're the law and all that. Commenter, holy shit, someone spit on her. What are you people, Amish? OP, Catholic. Commenter, he appeared at our house, claiming he had left his wife and wanted to be with my sister. Haha. Sure, he left his wife after 5 years, coincidentally at the moment she discovered everything. I'm completely sure it's not the wife who dumped him. /S. OP, I think the same thing. Commenter, your sister really is a piece of work. What did she expect would happen once news of the affair got out? If it weren't for the fact that she's pregnant, I wouldn't have put it past someone to do more than spit at her. The child is going to grow up hated by affair partners, soon-to-be ex, and their children. OP, I think worse is coming to her. I know our town. That's why she mostly stays in right now. Someone alleges OP is only blaming the sister and not the affair partner. I blame him. He is a horrible man with no morals. He couldn't even wait for his son to be out of the hospital to start an affair because his ballpark wasn't getting scratched by his wife, who was also in the accident. I hate him. I hate him so badly that I resent that he exists. But he is not in my life. I didn't know him. He has no cards in my game. I am so mad at my sister for not only fudging up her life, but also bringing chaos in mine after I opened my home to her. I am mad she lied to me for 5 years, but most of all, I am disgusted with her horrible selfish actions. She wasn't lured into this. She knew from the beginning that she was a mistress. She knew what she was doing. She knew it was wrong, and yet she kept doing it and lying through her teeth. I don't know who she is. Update 2. Alright, so buckle up because things have escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. It's like my life became a soap opera I never signed up for. My sister, let's call her Jane, has been sulking around the house for weeks. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every day, I'm trying to be civil, but it's hard when I feel like I'm living with a stranger. I still see the same face I've known for 32 years, but the person behind it? No clue who that is. A few days ago, Jane dropped a bomb. She told me she wanted to go to couples therapy with this man. Let's call him Mark. Couples therapy. For real. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but she was dead serious. She genuinely believes they can work things out because love conquers all and whatnot. I stared at her like she'd grown another head. This woman thinks she's living in some Nicholas Sparks novel. Meanwhile, the town is turning against her, and she's out here dreaming about healing together with a dude who lied, cheated, and abandoned his disabled wife and 4 kids. I told her she's insane. Flat out. She starts crying, saying no one understands her, and she deserves to be happy. And I'm like, do you hear yourself? You deserve to be happy? How about his wife? His kids? What do they deserve? I was boiling. She just stormed off to her room, slamming the door like a teenager. I thought that was the end of the drama for the day, but nope. Later that night, I got a call from Mark's wife. She somehow got my number, again, probably from his phone, because the man can't lock it for the life of him. She's crying and asking me if Jane is still planning to be with Mark because apparently he's trying to win her back. I could hear kids screaming in the background while she's telling me this. My heart shattered for her, but honestly, I didn't know what to say. I told her I don't know what Jane's planning anymore, that she's in some twisted dreamland where she thinks they're going to ride off into the sunset together. The wife, let's call her Sarah, told me she's considering divorcing him, but that the kids' well-being is her top priority. She also mentioned she'd caught him meeting up with Jane in secret, and this was her final straw. Sarah asked me no, begged me to keep Jane away from her husband. I agreed, but I was thinking, how do I even do that? Jane's got her own mind and apparently zero shame. I told Sarah I'd do what I could, but honestly, I felt helpless. The next day, Jane drops another bomb. She tells me she's planning to meet with Mark in secret because, get this, he's promised to leave his wife for real this time. Jane swears he's ready to commit to her, that he's already looking at apartments for them and the baby. I almost laughed in her face, but it's beyond a joke at this point. I told her she could do whatever she wants, but not under my roof. If she sees him again, she's out. Period. No negotiations. And here's where it gets wilder. Yesterday, Mark showed up again. This time, he's pounding on the door like a maniac. I wasn't about to let this go down without a fight, so I went outside, told him to get lost, and if he didn't, I'd call the police. But Jane? Oh no. She's outside in seconds, sobbing, begging him to explain himself. I stood there, watching this circus unfold, my blood boiling. Mark had the audacity to tell her that he's left his wife and he's ready to be a father. He said they could start their new life together. I didn't believe a word. I told him to get off my property before I got the authorities involved. He tries to argue, and that's when Jane made the worst possible decision. She told him to come inside. Inside my house. I shut that down immediately, told her that if he stepped 1 foot past the threshold, they were both out. She lost it, screaming at me, telling me I was ruining everything for her, that I was jealous because I didn't understand their deep connection. I told her she was delusional, and if she wanted to live in fantasy land with Mark, she better start looking for a place. And you won't believe what she said next. She told me she's been saving up to move out with him. She's been planning this all along. Every cent she's earned while living rent-free under my roof was for their new beginning. The entitlement floored me. Here I am, trying to help her, and she's scheming to shack up with this lowlife who's already destroyed one family. I was done. I told her to pack her things and be gone by the weekend. Here's where things took an unexpected turn. Last night, after hours of silence, she came to me, crying again. But this time, it was different. She said she felt like she had no one left. Mark was feeding her lies, keeping her on the hook, and she was finally starting to realize how deep into the mess she was. She asked me if I would still help her once the baby was born, even if she left Mark. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because, honestly, I don't know if I can. I'm so torn between the sister I used to know and the person she's become. She's made a complete mess of her life, and she's dragged me down with her. But the baby? The baby is innocent in all of this. That's the only thing keeping me from cutting her off entirely. I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll see. Commenter. You're stronger than I would be. I can't believe she's still hanging on to this guy. Update 3. After that last meltdown between Jane and Mark, I gave her an ultimatum. Get your head straight or get out. I wasn't playing around anymore. I'd been patient, more patient than I ever thought I could be. But she was dragging me, my house, and my sanity through the mud, and I was done. Jane swore to me she was cutting things off with Mark for good. She told me she had seen the light, realized he was toxic, and wanted to focus on the baby and herself. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but deep down, I wasn't convinced. She had said stuff like that before, and every time, she fell back into his web of lies and manipulation. A week went by, and things were quiet. Too quiet. Jane was staying in her room most of the time, only coming out to eat or for her appointments. We weren't talking much, and honestly, I was okay with that. I needed space from her, from the chaos, from everything. Then, the storm hit. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was working from home, and Jane had gone out to run some errands, or so she said. I didn't think much of it until I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to find Sarah standing there, Mark's wife. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days, but there was this determined look in her eyes. She didn't say much, just asked if Jane was home. I told her she wasn't and asked if everything was okay. That's when she dropped the bomb. Sarah told me that Mark had disappeared. Vanished. He'd packed a bag, left a note saying he needed space, and walked out on her and the kids. Again. But this time, it wasn't just for a night or two he was gone. Sarah hadn't heard from him in days, and neither had the kids. She had gone through his phone records and found that the last person he contacted was, of course, Jane. My stomach dropped. I immediately called Jane, and surprise, her phone was off. I asked Sarah if she confronted Jane yet, and she said no. She wanted to hear it from me first. I didn't know what to think. Part of me was scared that Jane had gone off with him, that she had finally given in to her worst impulses and run away with the man who had already destroyed one family. But another part of me, the hopeful part, wanted to believe she was better than that. That maybe, just maybe, she was telling the truth this time and wasn't involved. I was wrong. That evening, Jane came home with Mark. They walked through the door like it was nothing, like I wasn't about to blow a fuse. Mark had this smug look on his face like he'd won some prize, and Jane looked nervous. Guilty. She knew I was about to lose it. And I did. I started yelling, demanding to know what the hell was going on. Why she brought him into my house after everything I had said. Mark tried to speak, but I shut him down. I told him to get out, that I wasn't letting him wreck my home the way he wrecked his own. He just smirked at me and said, "You're not in charge here." Jane, to my shock, defended him. She said they were in love and that he had left his wife for good this time. She was still planning on moving out with him. They had some grand plan to start a new life together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All the promises she made, all the assurances that she was done with him, was all lies. She'd been planning this behind my back for weeks. I told them both to leave. Immediately, Jane started crying, saying she had nowhere else to go, but I didn't care anymore. She'd crossed every line imaginable, and I couldn't have her toxic relationship in my life. I told her that if she chose him, she couldn't stay here. I wasn't going to watch her destroy herself and bring that mess into my house. That's when things took a turn. Mark, seeing that I wasn't backing down, started yelling back at me. He said I was controlling, that I was keeping Jane from her true happiness. He tried to push past me, but I stood my ground. I told him I'd call the police if he didn't leave. Jane, still sobbing, begged him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. He started spewing venom, saying all kinds of nasty things about Sarah, about his kids, about how Jane was the only one who understood him. And then, Jane snapped. She screamed at him to stop, that she couldn't do this anymore. She started sobbing uncontrollably, saying that she was so tired of being his second choice. She told him that she had ruined her life waiting for him to be the man he said he would be, and she realized he never would be. She finally saw him for what he was: a liar, a manipulator, a coward who ran from his responsibilities. Mark tried to calm her down, but she pushed him away. She told him to leave, that she didn't want him around anymore. He was stunned. He actually looked like he couldn't believe she was saying this, but he didn't fight it. He just turned and walked out the door, slamming it behind him. I stood there, watching my sister crumble to the floor in a mess of tears and regret. I didn't know what to say. I was angry at her, furious even, but at the same time, I felt relief. Relief that maybe, just maybe, she had finally woken up. We sat in silence for a long time after that. I didn't say much. I didn't have much left to say. She just cried and apologized over and over again, but I told her that apologies didn't mean much to me right now. Actions did. That night, Jane packed her things and left. She didn't have a plan, she just needed to get away. I told her I couldn't take care of her anymore, but I'd help her find resources for single mothers and support if she needed it. She thanked me, but I could tell she knew that this was the end of our living arrangement, maybe the end of our relationship as sisters for a while. She's staying in a women's shelter for now, getting help and counseling. I haven't heard from her in days. As for me, I'm still here, in the same house, but it feels different now. Quieter. Empty in some ways, but peaceful in others. I'm not sure what comes next. Maybe Jane will get the help she needs. Maybe she'll finally see how far she let herself fall. Maybe she'll rebuild. Or maybe she won't.